Won't you lift your chin up, my baby, when all your dreams are shattered to pieces, and nothing in this world seems to make any sense at all. But you know.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to One Controller Port Podcast. Welcome to One Controller Port Podcast, episode 57. Here we are today, post E3. E3 is over. I feel like I covered pretty much most I wanted to talk about last time for the show in general, but I definitely have a few little dangling bits here and there. That's a bad way to put that. Don't say dangling bits. A few little loose ends that I do want to cover, though, for this E3. So I'm not sure how much of the show it's going to take. I have a fortune cookie ready, just in case we need it. But in the meantime, I was pretty excited this week because I if I can get my words going, a while ago, and I don't remember if I ever mentioned this on the podcast, but I basically bought a lot of like Final Fantasy XI Dojin stuff. I think it's from a guy named Takachin, I think his name is. I think he's listed on Alice Books as shantoto.com or something like that. And then he's also selling mugs, and they just listed those mugs, and I was like, oh, these are really cute, like little Moogles, and they have like 4 different Moogles from Final Fantasy XI on them. One of them is like the gangster Moogle sitting there smoking a cigarette from the Kupol Coup d'etat episode. I'll give you, in Final Fantasy XI is not a very good like expansion in that series. I feel like, admittedly, all those little expansions that came out between Wings of the Goddess and Seekers of Adulin are not particularly great, but they're really cute, and so on the surface level, it didn't seem so bad buying them because they're now listed on Alice Books for about I forget the yen amount, but about $45, $50, which is a lot, but it's Dojin content stuff. But then the shipping was, oh my god, very expensive. Like, I expect stuff to be expensive when shipping with that kind of stuff. But yeah, it was it was over $100 at the end of everything said and done. I shouldn't have bought it, but here I am. I did it. I'm bumping my mic in celebration of spending $100 on like 4 mugs, but they're super cute. And I'll regret it for the rest of my life, I'm sure. But, hopefully they make it here fine. I think they have like a nice little bag they come in too, so that's kind of nice. But yeah, it's pretty pricey. And then, so not only that, I don't know if he was intending to list it on Alice Books originally, or if he just put them up when I was asking. Maybe I just had a good timing on asking about it. But yeah, I put it up and then messaged me, was like, hey, they're for sale now. It's like, oh, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Man who does not speak English, I'm sure. And then I also got a message from the people who did Scum of the Brave, or a person from that. I think it's the artist. I don't know if they did the story writing for that game as well, but the artist at the very least. Because a couple of years ago, I wrote about it. It's like a RPG Maker visual novel that has a lot of visual elements to it in a way that makes it kind of interesting to read, even if you don't know Japanese. But they actually are doing a webcomic series for the story of the game, and they're putting that into English, which is very nice. So now if you ever read my Scum of the Brave article and were like, this looks interesting, but I won't read this because it's in Japanese, I'll put the webcomic in the description. I'll also put the article in the description too if you don't know what Scum of the Brave is. But yeah, it's obviously it doesn't carry over like the really nice color palette that the game had at the time. Or game has, I should say has. It's listed. It's a free game, by the way. It's a couple hours long or something like that. But you get the story, which I'll say is kind of straightforward for the most part, but that's fine. For me, characters are always more important, and the character designs in this this thing, I don't know, you wouldn't call it a series, story, I guess, have always been very nice in my opinion. And then being able to see those characters realized in a language I understand is good too. But I mean, the reason I even recommended the original game was because a lot of visual elements in the story really communicate what's happening, and obviously you don't get the nuances, but I think you get the overall idea of what's happening in each scene, and you have kind of a following on what's going on through the story to some extent. So yeah, I was excited about that. So if you haven't, you should read it. It's like 2 chapters right now, and then they're going to keep doing it. The artist replied to me saying they're going to do it like every 2 weeks. They're hoping to put a chapter out. I don't know if they're already all done, or if they're just rolling it out, or if they're actively working on it. So my hope is that it gets all the way to the end in English. That'd be nice. But I definitely have had many among the series that I have followed where that isn't the case. So we'll see what happens. We will see what happens. Rolling back to E3 stuff. Just a couple of little bits that I saw after either after I had the last podcast, or it just didn't fit in there. I thought it was really interesting with Phil Spencer on Giant Bomb, which if you haven't watched Phil Spencer do his Giant Bomb interviews for any of the E3s, they're actually really nice. I like Phil Spencer a lot on stage and stuff. He's a little stiff at times, but he's pretty candid about everything. It feels like he seems like he is not afraid to talk about things. Admittedly, if you're the head of games at Xbox, you don't really have too many people above you, but he's very, it never feels like he's really trying to dodge a question. He does have times where it's like, oh, I don't want to condemn Sony for a decision they would make or something, where it's kind of like, but that's anything. That's Sony. Yeah. Anyways. So I thought it was interesting that, they were talking about their approach to Xbox in Japan beforehand, and basically it was saying that what they're doing now is, rather than trying to get Japanese companies to help Xbox succeed in Japan, they're just trying to help Japanese companies succeed on Xbox in general, outside of Japan too. Well, if anything, mostly outside of Japan, which I think is probably a good idea to take that approach, but I also wonder, in the long term, what does that really mean? I mean, in the short term right now, I'll be honest with you, PlayStation wise, I don't really like much first party software on PlayStation. I don't think I particularly care about a lot of Microsoft's first party games either. So it really comes down to the third party games, and I tend to lean towards Japanese games in general. So that's why I've kind of always hit PlayStation first. I get around to Xbox usually, but it's usually really late in the life cycle. And so having another platform where if Microsoft was able to say, hey, let's talk to these third parties and make sure when they're releasing these games, they're also releasing on the Xbox as well. I think that's something that is valuable. But I think what they need, and maybe it's just a built up thing, as they build up these relationships with Japanese publishers for whenever they do eventually get around to the next platform they put out, to also have that in addition to the first party exclusives that they're pushing, or it seems like they're trying to push forward with the 5 company acquisitions they did. So I think that's an interesting approach. I don't think it will make any exclusive Japanese games for Xbox, but I don't think Sony's doing that many exclusive first-party games from their Japanese teams either. But Sony Computer Entertainment Japan very much seems like a support kind of studio at this point. Seems like they help out a lot of other teams build stuff, which is, good and bad. Freedom Wars is a great game. I was saying last week, I was like, I don't know any first-party Sony games I like other than Aconcagua. Freedom Wars is another one, although it was developed in conjunction with Dimps and Shift. So it's kind of here or there. I think more than anything, that game screams Shift than any of those other 2 teams. I would really like for something nice, I don't know why I always feel this, but I always want a colorful action RPG from Sony Computer Entertainment Japan. I don't know if that will ever happen, but it's always been a weird desire of mine. Not that I'm I'm not losing sleep over it or something, but it's just a weird thing. I don't typically have specific desires from individual developers, but for some reason that's what I want from them. I did watch some Bloodstained footage, and I really don't have any, additional thoughts to that. If you're curious how I feel about Bloodstained, I've written articles in the past about the concerns I have about that game. But really, those concerns won't be answered until I actually play them for the most part. But they did clean it up quite a bit. Like visually, it's not like anything that's like a complete facelift in a way that it's like, oh my gosh, this is like, gone from realistic war game to cell shading or something like that. But it definitely looks a lot cleaner. They redesigned a lot of the redesigned the final boss. I think they may have also kind of done a like pass over on all the enemy models as well. I feel like the pigs that like shot fire out of their mouths were a lot more simplistic in the E3 2016 demo I played a while ago. But it looks really nice and clean. And I'm looking forward to that game coming out. The music's good too. But I think the one thing that I did really notice, and this is like such a freaking nitpicky thing, it's like, it doesn't even matter. This has no impact on anything. They have like these cutscenes where the two characters stand and basically do a character portrait cutscene, but with 3D models. And Miriam's mouth looks weird for some reason. I don't know why. It's like this weird boxy shape when she talks. So, but games in development. It's just weird that everyone else seems to have okay mouths, but hers is just like, but we'll see. There's plenty of time until that's out. Like I said last week, Igarashi, don't disappoint me. Curse of the Moon, I need to play it. Jesus Christ, someday. I'll probably play some Star Fox tonight. That's probably what I'm going to end up doing instead of playing Curse of the Moon. Daemon X Machina. I have no real thoughts about like Daemon X Machina. If you don't know what that is, that's the mech game that Nintendo showed briefly at the press conference. I watched the Nintendo Treehouse demo, and I can't really say anything about it really stood out to me other than just like the look still being really good. I like that you have a character creator stuff. I like that you have like the more human element too. That's the one concern I'd have with like something like Anthem with EA, where it's like you have your armor design, but it seems like the rest of the game is like from a first-person perspective, and the armor designs are kind of set in stone, so it's just kind of color changes, I think. I feel like with a game like that, you want to have more visual diversity in your armor and stuff. Anyways, that's going off track, but I was happy to see that you can have like a character that you're creating, and then it looks like you can hold at least one mech, maybe 4 from the demo, it looked like, but I don't know, those might have just been multiplayer slots. It seemed like it was pretty heavily hinted that there will be multiplayer at some point, which is good. I just hope the multiplayer is very well integrated into the game. I've been playing a lot of multiplayer games with people over the past year and a half or so, and it really makes me appreciate like how well God Eater does multiplayer, where even though like there are some issues with God Eater's multiplayer, but like keeping everybody kind of feeling like they're in the same experience is a very difficult thing, it seems like, and I don't know if many games really achieve that when they do their multiplayer stuff. Dragon Quest Heroes 2, which I've been playing recently, not particularly feeling like it's built for multiplayer. It feels kind of tacked on, but it's still entertaining to do the multiplayer stuff. It's still challenging, which is nice. Excuse me. But yeah, it looks nice. I've never played an Armored Core game. I haven't played a mech game in a long time. I'm trying to think what the last one was I played. But this isn't particularly like a Steel Battalion kind of thing where it's like a slow kind of, moving around all chunky, like kind of thing. It seems more like a faster speed, like flying around shooting each other, and there are swords in the game, but I didn't see anyone using the sword, so maybe it's maybe there are some more melee combat focused classes. But I think the game looks pretty good. I would be interested in playing it multiplayer. Something about the game always reminds me of Xenoblade Chronicles X's look. Something about the design of the mechs and the plug suits and stuff. Are those just called plug suits, or is that just an Evangelion thing? The little like space suits you put on. I don't know. It probably didn't come from Evangelion, but who knows? Yeah, I guess that's it. Let's go into Fortune Cookie. If you're not aware, Fortune Cookie is when I just grab a random game out of my collection. We have a little chat about it. Sword Art Online Hollow Fragment. This is a doozy. I think I've written like 3 articles about this game. Because it's fascinating. It's a fascinating game because it's Sword Art Online Hollow Fragment is a combination of two games. The PSP game, I think it's called Infinite something, Infinite Stratos, maybe. No, that's an anime. I don't know. It's called something. There's an original PSP Sword Art Online game, and then there's Sword Art Online Hollow Fragment, which then contains that original PSP game, and then has this other shell of a game wrapped around it. And rather than really integrating the two, so it's not really like... It's not like, okay, play the PSP game, now play the PlayStation Vita game, or if you already played the PSP game, just skip to the PlayStation Vita game. It is like they combine the two into one world, so they're happening at the same time. So you're playing through the main game, and it's just this very like straightforward in terms of dungeon design and enemies, and you're already by default at the start of the game level 100, which is way higher level than anything in the original game. You have this part of the game, and then you like teleport to another part, which is the Hollow Fragment part, which is specifically stuff for the PlayStation Vita. A lot bigger environment. It's a big open world. That's a ton of areas interconnected to each other, and the game design feels completely different between the two. The Hollow Fragment stuff is a lot more challenging because the levels are actually scaled properly, and it's just like it's crazy that they shove these games together and that they did it so lazily of just like, here, just teleport between the two worlds, and then we're not going to really consider the balance of the first game because of it. But when they do it and they put it together, it's this really weird, fascinating thing that would have been a lot less interesting if they actually tried to make them fit well together. I don't know. It's like basically like you're going through, and both of these like dungeons are super repetitive between the two. It's just like the nature of the game's design is very repetitive, but they're repetitive in their own different ways. So you're like going through the main story in the regular game, and then you're like, okay, I'm bored of this. I'm going to go to this main story in the other part of the game, and then you get bored of that part and just go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And again, both are not particularly great either way, but it's a really fascinating design. I think I have an article, something called like Sword Art Online Worlds Collide or something like that. So I will also link that in the description today. I'm linking a lot of stuff in the description today. So I guess that's what we're going to do. It's a long game, though. I think it took me like 70 hours or something like that, and I pretty much just beat the story stuff. I didn't actually go around and do a lot of this stuff. There's a ton of dating elements that you can do. Well, let me rephrase that. There's a lot of grinding available for dating stuff, but there isn't like a ton of dating content. It's pretty much you grind these dates out to eventually get in bed with these people, and it's... Except for one part in the story, it's all very, very just like, we're just going to lay in the bed together, and I'm going to take my shirt off a little bit so you can see my little bra-y, and we're just going to get in there, and then it's really weird because in the main story of Sword Art Online, like, Kirito has a girlfriend that, like, at some point you guys get, like, married at some point or something, yet you're still just, like, bringing these ladies into your bed and just, like, let's just lay here consensually, and, like, oh, yeah, let me just pop these buttons open on my bra, or my shirt and show my bra. It's very, very strange. You can actually make your own character in that game as well, but everyone still just calls you Kirito. So yeah, it's this bizarre game. I don't really know. I think maybe the intention, and maybe I don't know if this is true for the original PSP one, but I think the PSP one's a lot more story focused on the story of the actual Sword Art Online anime, the original part where you're going up that Aincrad, and I think it actually handles the main story of Sword Art Online better in some ways, specifically with the pacing of the plot. Even though it's like not canon, I think it's a lot better in terms of how it resolves the issues that Kirito goes through, specifically towards the end of the big dungeon thing they're climbing. Maybe I should explain what Sword Art Online is, but it's popular enough. I don't know. If you don't know what it is, go read a Wikipedia article, I guess. But and then so maybe that was like more of just like standard Kirito stuff. And then when you're in the other part of the world, everything feels a lot looser. So maybe that was mainly where the create a character stuff kind of comes in. But admittedly, once you finish the story stuff and you're there's like you can basically go out into the open world and kind of do whatever you want. And you can also do like local multiplayer in the PlayStation Vita version. I think the PlayStation 4 version might have online. I'm not sure. But then you can just kind of go do content out there, and I think at any point in the game you can kind of remake how your character looks. So I just stuck with Kirito because like lore thing, story thing, I guess it feels better for me. And honestly, the character creation tools didn't seem great. I wonder if you could only be a guy in there now that I think about it. I wonder if you could make your character a girl. I don't even know. But anyways, yeah, that game, man. If you want to play something like a crazy ride of like, of like, it might be one of the best games of like surfacing immediately what interests me in games. Like if you play Sword Art Online Hollow Fragment and like it, you might understand what I like about video games more. Who knows? Sword Art Online, man, that's a weird series. There's so many games now. I still need to play Fatal Bullet. I said I was gonna play Fatal Bullet when it came out. Definitely didn't do that. Also, I keep nosing my little breath guard thing or whatever it's called for pop guard for my microphone. So sorry if you hear that. I need to not put my nose right up on it. So yeah, I guess that's it for this week. Thanks for listening. Hopefully next week will be E3 free. I'm still kind of catching up on some of that stuff, but for the most part, I feel like I touched on everything. I pretty much skipped most of the Treehouse demo stuff for Nintendo. I looked at the Resident Evil 2 stuff. That looks pretty okay, but again, I talked about it last week. Resident Evil 2 is one of those games that I think I just need to play and feel on my own, kind of like Bloodstained. I don't know if there's anything you could say to me about Resident Evil 2 that's like, oh, yeah, I'm all about that. I think just less because of the game and more of just my feelings on Resident Evil in general right now. I think I'm just at a little bit of a loss of what I want from that series. And also I think I maybe at a little bit of a loss of what I want out of I don't know. Maybe I'm not a little bit of a loss of what I want on Bloodstained. I think I have a pretty clear idea what I want on Bloodstained, which is not, recreating Area of Sorrow. But I think there's some things that I have to look at Bloodstained and like think more about. Like there's a lot of Order of Ecclesia stuff that probably can still exist within that game in terms of the level design. And I think Order of Ecclesia is a game that doesn't have particularly great level design, but I think they tried something with it. And so if we are able to see a refinement of that in a way that feels significant, I think I'd be happy with that in Bloodstained. But hey, we'll see. That's gonna be it for this week. I'm gonna hopefully go write a review of Penny Punching Princess right now. We'll see what happens. I see some Discord notifications. Hopefully it's good notification. Oh, anyways, that's gonna be it. Thanks, guys. Have a good night. Bye.